Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Content Culture. It's your girl, Tomi.
And Nicole.
And we are so excited to talk all things pop culture and this Bachelorette recap. But start it off, Nicole, how was your weekend? How did you celebrate Juneteenth?
Well, I actually had Friday off work, even though Juneteenth was Saturday. My company observed it on Friday. So, I slept in. I went and tried this new gelato shop I've been wanting to try. There's two within like 6 blocks of each other in Alexandria. So went to the first one. It was really cute. It was a little like walk-up window. You stick your head in. You're like, hey, I want such and such. They gave it to you. Mm-hmm. And then I took my brother with me, and we were shocked because there was like another ice cream place that we weren't planning on going to right across the street. Line is like wrapping around the building. So you're like, I'm like, this is marketing, because now I want to know, like, why are there so many people here?
Sure.
We didn't go to that one, but when I got home, I looked it up, and it's Black owned. It's new. Like, they open in April. They do like frozen custard sandwiches with donuts. So, I got to go back.
Were you like holding the gelato from the other place as you walked by the other line, and they're just staring at you like, how dare you?
I was looking at those people. I was looking at all these white people like, what do you know that I don't?
Right.
Because there was no line at the gelato place. So I was like, am I playing myself?
Number one.
What's happening? But yeah, I had gelato at 2 different places. It was good. Walked. It was like super humid here this weekend. I don't know what it's like in North Carolina.
I'm shocked that like you guys had Juneteenth off so quickly, because when I did like a little poll on my stories, it was like 50-50 on who was able to do it.
Right. So my company actually announced at the end, like last December, that it was going to be a company holiday moving forward. So it wasn't impacted by like the new federal mandate or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was really surprising in DC at how many people, like government workers, were just like, yeah, I'm off on Friday. And I was like, he just signed it like 12 hours ago. Like, what do you mean you're off?
Yeah.
I was looking forward to a day where everyone was at work and I was off, But that's okay. I'm glad everyone has it off. It is kind of weird. My company, I think I told you this, doesn't give us MLK Day off, but they give us Juneteenth. And I'm like, what about both? what about rights for Black people?
Okay, correct. But fascinating though, why don't they give you, do they give you President's Day off? Because that's what Will's work does.
No.
And I'm like, okay, that's a little shady, because like no one gets President's Day off.
Right. So I can't really
say no to MLK. Okay.
Yeah, when they announced Juneteenth, I was like, okay, they're doing something. But I was like, I'd like MLK Day off.
I'd like reparations, but we can start there.
I'd like some police reform. I'd like some voting rights.
Correct.
I put this little Band-Aid on, everybody has Juneteenth off, and we'll just be grateful for what we get.
Oh man, I did not do anything for the culture this weekend, unfortunately. I apologize to my Black brethren. What did I do on Saturday? So we actually went to like a house party, which is like the first time in a while. I know. And it sounds crazy, but there was like 10, 12 people there. It was not anything.
I'm outside.
We outside, bitches. I loved it. I was like, let's do this. Let's get back into society. We were only out until like 1 a.m. and I was out of commission for the next 48 hours.
Okay, I saw your tweet, I think Sunday, where you were like, I just realized I have plans like every weekend until September.
August.
And I was like, ma'am, I need you to plan a break in there.
I don't know what I'm thinking. The fact that this took me 48 hours to recover, I don't think I'll survive. So
I hear you on that.
We'll see. We will see what happens. I know that we have not talked about some of your dating stories in a while, and I'm sure there are some people who want some updates. But wait, before we do that, should we share a review from last week?
I saw recently there was a good one. I think the most recent one when I last checked was really funny. So definitely read that one.
Last week, if you did not listen to that episode, one, how dare you? But we'll forgive. We shared that we would be sharing a couple of reviews every week just to, say thank you, because they help us out a lot.
Yeah.
This is the one that I wanted to read, and it was called from Tina Marie 022, and she said, Toby and Nicole chatting about pop culture every week feels like listening to my best friends chat. Aw, I love their takes and hearing their perspective. Even my partner, who rolls his eyes at most pop culture podcasts I listen to, tunes in when I start up content culture. Love this duo.
Okay, partner. We love him.
We stand. Thank you for listening. You understand quality, excellence, Black excellence. So thank you. Keep coming back. So yeah, just a reminder, if you guys leave a little nice review, it might be read aloud here on the pod.
Yeah, we love reviews. I just like stalk our iTunes page just to like read the reviews. Like I don't tell anyone, I just do it. So that was beautiful. I'm so excited. I wish I had a partner that was so supportive that they would listen to the podcasts I like to listen to.
So this means that you're on the look for a partner.
You know, we took a couple weeks off from Bumble.
Okay.
As we should have, after the last incident. But I'm here to tell you there is a man in my phone right now. Now,
is he saved in your phone?
No, I will not do that. Okay. After it's been 3 years since I've been in a relationship, and I will not save a man in my phone.
Fascinating.
Until he proves himself worthy.
What is it about the saving aspects that makes that feel that, I don't know, cemented and related? I don't think that's is that a relationship step now in 2021? It used to be like make a Facebook status, but is it now if I save you in your phone, it's real?
No, I feel like posting on Instagram. I don't know if I'm posting a man on my Instagram until we're engaged.
Oh my God.
That's where I am at this point in time.
Okay.
As far as saving his name, I just feel like it keeps me young. It keeps me unattached. I'm like, there's no name. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure who this is.
Keeps him on his toes, keeps you on your toes. I love it.
Got to keep it, no attachments. Hot girl summer. No, so this guy in my phone, first off, I seem to attract Republicans, one, and two, Android users, which...
Listen, I don't know what that means, but the algorithm is clearly pointing you in the direction that they think that you should be pointing in, so we should talk about that at a later point in time.
We should. So, anyways, I matched with this guy on Hinge. He, liked my photo. I matched with him. I actually wrote about this in my newsletter, but he messages me and he says, I know this is kind of weird. I'm already scared. And he says, I think you would be great for my friend.
What?
Just okay. So I think you'd be great for my friend. And so I was like, what does that mean? Like, why did you match me for your, do you just want to tell me that your friend's out here on the app somewhere? Like, what's going on? So I was like, okay. And he was like, he doesn't use dating apps, but would it be okay if I sent you a picture of him and you could see if you'd be interested?
So this man was not catfishing as his friend. No. He didn't set up the profile in his friend's persona trying to get stuff for him. It was him, his personal profile, and said, oh, you're not for me, babes, but maybe for my friend?
That is exactly what happened, Tommy.
Ballsy.
So, I was like, this is weird, but I was like, he was so ballsy that I was like, I feel like I can't say no. Also, we all know I love a good story, right? Okay. Let's be honest.
You're like, let's just chalk it up to the content and do it.
So I was like, yeah, sure. So he was like, what's your Snapchat? Which I hate. I'm like, I'm 29 years old. Please do not try to communicate with me.
Yeah.
Via Snapchat. Period. That's the sentence. But I was like, yeah, here's my Snap. He sent me some pictures. The guy was okay looking, not oh my gosh, Chris Evans. But I was like, oh, he's decent looking. So I was like, yeah, sure. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to give your Snapchat to my friend. Now, I don't want to say I'm getting old, but the reason I hate Snapchat is because things disappear, right? So you can set it so that it'll save for 24 hours, but nothing beyond that. So I can't tell you at this point what this man looks like, how old he is, what he does for a living. I just know that his friend set us up and he texts me sometimes. We did eventually. I said, I don't really use Snapchat. And he was like, oh, okay. Let me text you.
And And you're not concerned for your safety at all at this point?
I would rather give someone, this is an interesting debate, and you're not single, but I'm going to ask you anyways.
Okay.
All of my single friends are like, would you rather give someone your phone number or your Instagram handle? Because guys will ask like, oh, can I DM you on Instagram? For me, I would rather give them my cell phone number.
Oh.
What do you think?
No, well, tell me your reasoning behind that.
Well, I can block a number. I mean, I guess you could block someone on Instagram too,
Yeah,
really. But
right.
I'm just like, I don't necessarily, and I don't tell people that I'm an influencer. So if I give them my Instagram handle, then they're like, oh. And then I feel like there's like men get like an idea of what an influencer is.
Right,
like,
right.
Oh, he's so vain, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not what it is at all. But if I am, is it wrong? No. But
that's abusive. No. Okay.
No, I'm allowed to think that. Like, I can think I'm a bad bitch.
Right.
But yeah, so that's the main reason. I feel like for safety reasons, giving my Instagram gives them more insight into my life.
Okay. So, you know what? As you were sharing this, I changed my mind because I do agree with you in the same way that you said, like, oh, I guess you can block on Instagram too, but it is a lot harder for someone to go through the work of getting a new phone number to try and contact you than just making a new Instagram page. Like, that's so simple.
I know Instagram's changed it recently where like now, like if you can block an email address. So if they make anything, but it's so easy to create a new email address too.
Right. I only have that option on our like podcast page. It hasn't come to my influencer page yet. So if I block someone, it doesn't give me the option like, oh, if you block them, you block any future accounts that they create.
See, now you get me.
Now I get you. I understand this thought process. Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And I think like in terms of safety reasons, it's so funny if you had told someone this years ago, it would have been a very different story.
Right. But I'm like, I would much rather give someone my cell phone number than my Instagram because then they know my handle. Like you said, if I block them, they can make a new account. They can follow along on my stories. I try not to post where I am in real time, but just like...
And then they can know everywhere else to find you too, like, because it'll always link out to your Twitter, your blog like page, and email. Like it just
now he's listening to content culture,
right? It's surprise. Welcome.
Wait, okay, review, please. A good review.
So please, finish your story. So you gave the Snapchat to this guy.
Gave the Snapchat. We were going back and forth. He like told me I was hard to get to know. And
like, I'm sorry, this is Snapchat. What did you expect?
Right. And it was like right before I left for California. So I was like, had a million things going on, And so I was like, so he says that. And I was like, what do you mean? He disappears for a week. Now who's hard to get to know? Gabriel.
Oh my gosh.
So eventually I was like, I don't use Snapchat, blah, blah, blah. So we've moved over to texting. And it upsets me that I have to date all these men to eventually like find my person. Like I would just like to wake up one morning and like have the knowledge in my head, be like, oh, this is my person. I just need to go here. I don't want to talk to all of these. I don't want to kiss these frogs. There's nothing wrong with him though. But I did tell him I don't trust men with androids after our last dating incident. And he was like, well, why is that? So then I told him and he was like, wow, these are very specific questions. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, but like, who is your favorite like sultan, like Byzantine sultan? Like, let me know.
This is now part of your interview process for your next lover.
I was alerted to this because he just texted me and said, how was your week? So I was like, okay.
All right. Hopefully things grow to a productive situation. All right.
I don't think so. Maybe another good story though. So I'm going to stick around because maybe there'll be another good story. Give me a breakdown of what happened in the story with the cut.
No, to be honest, I could not get past the little headline blurb that it was a woman who was kind of asking for like relationship advice and sharing like that she had not had an orgasm with her partner after 7 years of being together.
Are they married?
I think they're married.
I mean, either way, it doesn't matter if they're not married.
It doesn't.
Feelings, if we're being honest, but
I would honestly find it worse if you weren't married. I'm like, there's no legal contract binding you to this person. Why are you settling for mediocrity?
Okay, because I'm pretty sure I read this and she was like looking to open their relationship
Mm-hmm,
and like find someone else.
That was her approach to a solution
to
this problem.
And I'm assuming her partner knew that. And I'm just like, does he not take direction? Does he or she, do they not take direction at all?
I think he must not take direction, but also that means that she does not share. She's not vocal. She's not sticking up for herself.
There's just a lot to unpack here for me personally.
7 years? 7 years.
Like, why did you get married?
She said that she had faked every single one of them.
That's the other thing too. Why are you still faking them?
Because at this point, it's a little, you're too in. You're far too deep. Because what if you stop and you're like, he's like, oh, this is right out of my playbook that I've been using for the past 7 years. And he's going to be like, oh, something's wrong with you.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the partner knew. knew.
No. The partner does not know.
Okay. Ooh, so it's all on her, really. I mean, it is on him, but it's mostly on her for like never saying like, this isn't good.
I feel like the only choice that she has at this point is to break up with him and almost blame it on something else. Because I kind of don't, because I feel like he needs to know, but like how soul crushing would it be to find out from your partner of 7 years that this is how they've felt about sex this entire time?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe they should see like a sex therapist together, but like the trust is not going to be there when she's finally like, right. Hey, I've been dating it for 7 years. Like, what else are you lying about?
It's like, you're a very good actress.
I just don't understand how one gets into this situation, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it comes from a culture that has always pushed like sexual purity, and that we're now getting to this point of there being more equality and for women to be more open about sex. But I feel like there's no in between. So you have like the people who are very open, like you have your Katies from, the season of The Bachelorette, but then you have like your prudes, quote unquote. But what about the people who are like, hey, I'm not necessarily like, freak a leak, but I need to just be able to vocalize and say, this is what I like. This is what I don't like.
Yes. I feel like you nailed it. Like there's no in between. Like you're like, society still looks at it as like, you're either like way out there or you're way over here where you're like, never going to talk about sex, or you talk about sex all the time. And that's like your whole personality. And it gives no room for, I was going to say women, but men too, I guess, to like definitely talk about things. Like, I feel like it really has to be like you have a good relationship with your friends and your circle to talk about it. Otherwise, sex still is just like not talked about. It's like very like hush hush around it.
Yeah. And I think especially like for me coming from my own like cultural background, like being from a more conservative household, like African household, definitely never felt like very comfortable talking about that like early on in my own like young adult life, and just like from Christian way that I grew up too. Like, ooh, that is a whole nother left field. So perhaps one day we'll dedicate an episode to this and talking about it.
That would be good. There's a lot.
Sorry, Mom, if this is the first episode you decide to listen to. Just don't listen to that one.
My mom would listen and she'd be like, I'm so proud of you, girl.
Oh my God.
She would.
Feminist queen. I love it. No, my mom would probably say the same thing, but
it'd be a little awkward, but she'd be like, I'm proud of you guys.
She would just be like, I listened to your episode. Eyebrow raise.
But you married now. You married. No,
it doesn't matter. Okay. No.
See, that's what's wild to me in like Christian culture is it's like once you get married, you'd think it would be like, now you can talk about it, and you still can't. It's still like, no.
They just want the baby to be like magically appear out of thin air. But you're right. Let's get into some pop culture.
Okay.
I almost didn't want to talk about this week because I feel like this is a repeat.
Okay.
Where we have our little lady friend, Khloe Kardashian.
Khloe, clown Kardashian. Continue.
The K stands for clown. She has now broken up again with her baby's father, Tristan Thompson. over cheating allegations. That was posted by E! News, confirmed, which is their, of course, source of choice. So it is true. No relation to their baby, true. What are your thoughts? Because at this point, people are saying they feel sorry, and I have nothing left to give.
I don't feel sorry for her. She's made this choice. I did find it a little ironic that when I read this rumor last night, it said, they'd broken up and it was over cheating allegations. And they were like, it's over these cheating allegations because on Friday he was seen with more women again. So I was like, this man, someone at one point, like the first time he cheated, talked about him being like the community peen. And again, I've said this before, it's time to start slut shaming men. Like women get slut shamed all the time, but I'm like, this man cannot be faithful. Why do you keep going back to him?
For me, it's about the respect as well, because the first story, I think that came out, the one even before Jordan Woods, or maybe it was after, where he was seen like in a club, like a very public club. It was not like a private room, like making out with a girl on a couch.
Yes, I feel like he always gets caught out in public. Like he was in New York at a night at a rooftop bar and was kissing someone, and there was video, and I was like,
to not even go in a private room in the back, to not even, get someone like a sex worker, go to like a hotel secretly, nothing. Like you would want to do it out in our face. So it's like, do you want to see her to see this and just be humiliated? Is that the extra thing for you that gets him off? Because at this point, I'm like, that has to be it.
Yeah. And then I look at Khloe and I'm like, do you not have any respect for yourself? I mean, I'm a Khloe fan to a degree, but I'm like, come on. Like, how many times are you going to let this man walk all over you?
Because at this point, it's confirmed 3 times that this has happened. But there's been lots of stories in between that were neither confirmed or denied. And I get that she felt like she had to try again to make it work because of their kid. I will never, put someone down for that because I've not been in that situation. I could understand it a little bit. I know like people are like, how can you forgive Tristan and not forgive Jordan? Because even if she did forgive Jordan, is that someone like you would want to be hanging around you all the time? Maybe not, but you have to have Tristan there because he's the father of your child. So in that sense, whatever, I kind of understand. But to continuously get back with him now, I'm like, girl, be free. It's going to be okay. Look at Kourtney living her best life.
Okay, and we talked about Kim a couple weeks ago, like her and Kanye being, and I was like, listen, she can be single now. She can do whatever she wants.
Mm-hmm.
So can you, Khloe.
So can you. It's hard, I'm sure, but I just want this to be the year that, every year, that women, you stand up for yourselves. Know what you deserve. And it's not this. No. Stand up for yourself and say, hey, I'm not having orgasms during sex. I'm not going to be being cheated on. It's time for me to go. Time for me to go have some fun this summer.
Bye.
Bye.
I want that for Khloe Kardashian. I want that for every woman, though, like you said.
Yeah.
Please love yourself. Find a new man. Or don't find a man. That's fine, too. You don't have to find a man.
It's true. From one Khloe, though, to another.
Okay.
Did you see the stuff with Chloe Bailey this weekend?
Okay. I just saw a clip of the video performance, and I was like,
if it's anything about my girl Chloe, she's going to give it to you every time, period.
She was, I don't want to compare the two because they are both phenomenal women, but it was reminding me a little bit of Normani, some of the Normani performances where she was giving us dance. She was giving us on the floor, rolling up from the booty. Like it was giving me that. But Chloe really made it her own. And I was like, go ahead.
And so, if you don't know, Chloe Bailey is part of the duo Khloe and Hailey. I said Hailey. Is it Hallie? I got really self-conscious in this moment.
I feel like it's Hallie, but I don't know.
Oh my God. I know which one it is. Let's say it's Hailey, just for the sake of argument.
Okay.
Hallie. And they have been mentored by Beyonce. Like Beyonce found them online years ago and signed them to the record deal. And they were signed and they were in Grownish, the TV show with the spinoff from Blackish. And now her sister is the lead in The Little Mermaid and they're filming in England which I love. And Khloe's been giving us like covers for during the rest of quarantine, just giving it to us every time.
And she's looked so good doing it.
Did you? I felt like you saw what the pronunciation was because you were like shaking your head.
No, I did not.
Okay. Never mind. I thought that's what you were looking up. So there was that. And so this weekend she was invited to do a performance for Juneteenth by ABC, and she's performing Nina Simone's "Feeling Good." But what kind of started to cause a stir, again, female empowerment, like full on sexualization of the body, but like owning it with confidence. She's kind of if you're familiar with like the Partition video from Beyonce, it was very much that, where she's like in this great like sequinish kind of bodysuit and just like rolling on the ground, kind of gyrating, humping it a little bit, giving some good old acrobatics. It was almost Cirque du Soleil, but like with her and her wonderful Black woman self. So after the performance, everyone was like, girl, I loved it, but the energy was very weird for this song choice. And it sparks this debate on like, was it appropriate to be doing it to Nina Simone?
Well, I just saw when I was like looking this up, Nina Simone's granddaughter defended her and was like, yes, no, it was perfect. So I'm like, you know what? We're going with it.
Because Nina Simone herself was someone who like very much embraced sexuality and all of those things. However, the granddaughter on Twitter, it kind of continued to spiral, where she was tweeting about how Kamala Harris was one of the people, the reasons why like the estate of Nina Simone to this day does not have access to the funds and revenue that the family deserved. And at the time, it was because the case took place in California. Kamala Harris was the AG over there. And so she was like mentioning her in tweets and saying like, why don't you go ask her like why the family does not have access to these funds? So then everyone starts to drag Kamala, of course. And so dang, people were writing for Nina Simone's granddaughter saying like, this is it. The story continues. Where people are like, well, actually, girl, after a few Google searches, we found out that your mom was an abuser, or Nina Simone was an abuser. History of abuse all within your family. And your mom was misappropriating the funds. And that's why Kamala Harris decided to take that away from your family. And this all happened within like the course of maybe 6 hours on Twitter.
Listen, we all have some dirty laundry in our family drama. It's just not all of us are putting it on Twitter.
Right. And so I feel bad for the granddaughter if that's the way that she found out about all of the rest of the things from her family history. Because she just thought, man, we've been wronged by the state. I should get what's mine. And girl,
she got something.
She got something. And I just loved how it all started with Khloe Bailey shaking a little booty. So
yeah, you never know what you're gonna do when you shake that a little bit.
It's just a wonderful domino effect. But Black women taking charge. I love that that's just kind of like the theme for this episode today. Because you know that we had to talk about Rachel Lindsay's essay.
Whew.
In New York Magazine.
Wow.
I know we both had the time to read it in its entirety. I definitely suggest you guys do. We'll put it in the link in our show notes.
Yes.
But Rachel Lindsay, it was not an interview. It was just her writing it in first person, talking about her experience on the show as a contestant, through casting, her own season of The Bachelorette, and everything afterwards of her being used as this token, kind of being pushed forward to become their champion of diversity, and how it was very convenient for them in that point. And then afterwards, when she continued to be a spokeswoman and really pushing them to do better, of course, they did not enjoy all of the words and criticisms that she had to say, and how she's basically not wanting to move forward in any capacity with the franchise at all. She's not going to talk about like recap stuff. The contestants can reach out to her if they have questions, because she would love to share advice. But she's basically saying, it's above me now. God bless. Peace out. What were your thoughts on the essay that you read?
It was just, I'm glad she put it out there. It was disappointing to see New York Magazine, their original title for it, when they put it on social, because
yes,
I believe now it's like no more roses left to burn, but originally it was, they put it on her picture. It said, oops, I accidentally burned down the Bachelor franchise.
Yeah, like
And
I blew it up.
obviously that's very clickbaity and harmful towards her, because there are Bachelor fans that are going to read that and then immediately turn around and start spewing hate. But the actual essay was so well done. I thought she was super honest. It was like interesting. I don't think we learned a lot of new information. It was kind of funny to hear that she was like drunk a lot of the time when she was on Nick Viall's season of The Bachelor, and I like chuckled at that. But none of it was new. I really enjoyed how she kind of dragged Peter Weber, Pilot Pete, and Peter Krause, who was the runner-up on her season. I thought she was really honest. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit to hear that, like, when she went into The Bachelorette, she was like, I need support. And they were like, okay. And then her main producer was white. And so there was a lot of things that they didn't think about. And so she really was like alone in the experience.
Yeah, I think for those of us who keep up pretty regularly with The Bachelorette, you will not learn anything too new. However, I did have a couple of people reach out and say they don't watch the show and that they read it. And I was like, first of all, good for you, because it was kind of lengthy. So I don't know if I would have sat through all of that. But it was, again, really well done. So definitely still go read. But yeah, the points on the producers, she like asked for help and diversity, and they did diversity of like producers for the cast. And at the time was like the most diverse cast, but then she didn't. Each lead gets their own producer. And so her producer was a white woman who was not going to be able to like feel those same struggles. I think there was a couple of mentions too about the cast of the black men that cast that they did not like black women, which we talked about a little bit earlier on the show. But there's one specifically that she let go one of the first dates, and the producer sort of like, you have to actually cut him in this date because we cannot edit enough footage of it making like he even kind of likes you to keep him on the show for a rose ceremony.
She said he was cringing when she would like hold his hand or try to kiss him.
Yeah. And that was just heartbreaking to me.
Yeah, it was really hard.
And again, it's nothing new, but the producers were shocked that there was the possibility that there's a black guy out there that could not be attracted to black women. That was something completely new for them to be exposed to. And so instead of thinking of like, oh crap, how we just ruined kind of this season, they were just more intrigued and just asking her questions about, oh, how does that work and the complexities of it all. And then instead of having that help there that she needed to have, she was being a resource to them. And so I can only imagine the type of energy that was taken from her of having to educate people and then also going through this extremely like strenuous process of The Bachelor by itself.
Yes. And I thought it was interesting too. She talked about how her and her now husband, Brian, have both pointed out like this was the most Latino he had ever felt in his life, because he is very much, I would say, a white passing man, but they played up that he's Colombian the entire season.
Right. And I think people, again, the difference between race, ethnicity, nationality just be kicking y'all's behinds every day. But just for the audience, race is more of like your phenotype, your physical attributes, color of your skin. Ethnicity is like more of like country of origin type of stuff, where your family's from. Nationality is basically where you reside, right? So the fact that he was a white Colombian, people are like, oh, but he's a white guy. Like, are you gonna say anything about him? Or how she said, oh, Peter, I'm half Latino, Weber, in her essay.
Yeah. And
so they wanted the Bachelor franchise wanted to use that as their, another push of diversity. And it's like, but he's still a white man. It's okay that he is also ethnically Latino, but from the perspective of viewership, until they get to know Peter, they're not going to know that about him.
Right.
So in that sense, no, it's not necessarily something that does anything for the sake of diversity and inclusion.
Right. It's just kind of a way for you to check something off your list.
Right. She called his hair pubescent. So instead of Pilot Pete, I will now be calling him Pubescent Pete going forward. Thank you for your time.
I think that's fair. She never lied. She never lied in the essay. That's what I will say.
There's also one other point I want to mention too, that she said that there's two distinct groups in the fandom, where there's Bachelor Nation and then there's the Bachelor Clan, which are the ones that are the racists, the misogynists, those who are very severely like just against all things change. And I agree. I've seen it within the Reddit community that we're both a part of looking at those comments time and time again. And I can only say, like, I am so thankful for Rachel's contribution to this franchise and to the pop culture conversation in general, because it's like from her work and being able to not be afraid to be herself and stand up and say these things. Maybe the franchise, who knows what the future holds, but I at least think that other shows can look and see what The Bachelor did and learn from the dumpster fire that happened within this past year, and continue to grow from there.
Yeah. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for her outside of the Bachelor franchise. So
I will be buying her book.
Yeah. Go and be free, Rachel.
But we'll always be a Rachel Lindsay stan account.
No, we will. Like, we will still talk about Rachel Lindsay on this podcast. It's just we accept and respect that she's no longer involving herself with the Bachelor franchise.
Yes. Yes, indeed. That's all I've got for pop culture news this week.
Okay, so should we dive into The Bachelorette episode 3?
We should.
Okay. Sorry, I had to count real quick.
I was like, is it? Yeah.
Okay. So we start out the week and we're back to where we left off. Carl has been causing mayhem. We're pre-rose ceremony. She's talked to Aaron. All of the men are trying to understand what Carl's talking about because Carl has told her that there are multiple men not here for you and for the right reasons. And they're like, so who? And he can't name anyone. He's like, I don't know. Eventually he goes and walks outside. The rest of the men are still very confused. Katie's very upset. She's crying. We start the rose ceremony and she gives out the first few roses. She gives a rose to Mike and he stops her and says, hey, I just want to be completely honest with you. The rest of us don't know what Carl's talking about. He said, I'm speaking on behalf of everyone. We don't know what he's talking about, and we think he may have lied to you. Katie looks very confused. I wish we had had a split screen just of Carl's face this entire time, but they didn't do that. But they cut to him. He's like, and Katie's like, wait, all of you think this? And all of the men other than Carl nod. They're like, yes.
What would you been doing at this point if you're Carl?
Okay, I was going to say if I were Carl or if I were Katie. If I were Carl, I would just send myself home. I'd say, you know what? I'm going to head out.
Right. I think he was almost crying. His eyes looked a little watery.
So embarrassed. So Katie takes a couple minutes. She walks out and talks to Tayshia and Caitlin. Carl is still in there with the men. He's still in there. And the guys are like, sorry. I don't even think they said sorry.
No, I don't think so.
Katie tells Tayshia and Caitlin that she was going to give Carl a rose. And so she's like, I don't know what to do now. So she comes back in. We finish the rose ceremony out. The last rose goes to Aaron. And no rose to Carl, Kyle, Garrett, and John.
Not my baby John.
I was so upset.
The fact that at the beginning of this, I was confident he could make top 6, top 4. I didn't see him in those promos, and that's why I was like, oh, okay, maybe not top 4. It's fine, but he'll get far. Second rose ceremony? Really? John, she did not appreciate you, but we do.
He's so cute and wholesome. Like, again, last date, he was getting tackled in the mud and he was just smiling and laughing and you sent him home. He wrapped a blanket around Katie.
Yeah.
He gave her his jacket and she sent him home.
Let's hope it's not the last that we see of him.
I really hope not because I think he's a wholesome, he deserves the best.
Yes, he does.
Wherever he does. So then we go to the first group date. And
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
For Carl that he left, do you feel bad for him? Because I do. I don't think he's that evil of a person. I think producers kind of just poked him to say something and didn't realize that people were going to go, wham bam on him.
That's true. Production might have said there's some men not here for Katie.
Yeah.
And then he repeated that. And then that's why he didn't know who they were. I did feel bad for him. I was ready for him to go home.
Yes, same.
Because I was like, this drama, we're done. But like I said, when every man in the room was like, yeah, he's lying. I was like, my heart was beating for him. I was
the
like,
anxiety. Yeah. Because like when you're in a room with people that you kind of don't like and they kind of don't like you, but at least they don't say anything. So you're just kind of like on edge. But for them to actually say it out loud, I was like, oh, okay.
I was embarrassed for him. I think we'll see him on Paradise, though. I
think we'll have a good redemption arc, hopefully, from him. Let's see.
So we go to the first group date. Men on the date: Hunter, Thomas, Brendan, Connor B, David, James, Courtney, Aaron, and Justin. And Katie tells them, my friend's coming in. We're going to do a date so that we can get to know each other better. It's like a group therapy type setup where all the chairs are in a circle, and it's hosted by none other than Nick Viall. Because
Viall.
Ben Higgins is too busy, I guess, to keep up with the series anymore.
Precisely. What are your thoughts about Nick Viall? Because for me, I don't know why you would bring him for this specific date.
Yeah, normally there's some kind of tie-in to why they're on the date.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I didn't really get that with this one. They made it out like Nick and Katie were friends before this, but I don't think they were.
Perhaps just on Instagram. But for those of you who don't know, Nick was a contestant on Andy's season of The Bachelorette, made it to top 2. And then, obviously did not win. Then he goes on Caitlyn's season, joins later on, makes it to top 2 there. And they also have sex on the season, makes it to top 2 again. He doesn't win. So then finally, the Bachelor franchise is like, okay, whatever, we feel bad for you, after he does a little short stint on Paradise and give him the lead role for The Bachelor. So he got engaged on his season with a girl who was actually mentioned in Rachel Lindsay's essay. They did not get along on the season, but now they've kind of amicably made up and are better. And I think they only lasted a couple months afterwards. So none of his relationships have lasted that long. He is now in a relationship, I think, a little under a year, perhaps at a year, with a woman who is close to 15 to 20 years younger than him. So for me to pick him as your date on emotional intelligence, I'm like, is this a joke? Am I a joke to you at Bachelorette?
Yeah, it just didn't seem to make a lot of sense. And he really didn't contribute much, in my opinion,
right,
to the date. He said hello. He said, I'm Nick, if you don't know who I am. That was the last we heard of him. Then he was sitting there with the clipboard. So it's kind of weird. He tells the men that this is a chance for them to open up and maybe tell Katie things they're not proud of from their pasts. We start with Hunter, who talks about he has 2 children. He's divorced. And he says, I was so focused on being able to provide for my wife and my children that we drifted apart and ended up divorced. And he's very heartfelt. He was like, I constantly think about how I let my children down by getting divorced. And it was very emotional.
It was very emotional to watch.
I thought the first person was going to make it jokey. So I was like, oh, I wasn't ready for such a serious confession.
Same.
Aaron talks about how he lost a parent and he bonded with a woman who was also losing a parent. And maybe they leaned on each other a little too much. He wasn't very specific, but he kind of gets into that. Then we get to Thomas. And everyone's been giving these very serious, heartfelt things. And Thomas is laughing. And he's like, so when I came on The Bachelorette, I wasn't here for the right reasons. I didn't know who you were. And I thought maybe I could get some followers and boost my platform here. But I really like you, Katie.
I was shocked. My mouth on the ground. Because if there's anything about this franchise, the one thing you cannot do is be here for the wrong reasons. Yes, obviously we all want to be famous if you go on this reality TV show where they have a camera shoved in your face 24/7, but you're not supposed to say it out loud. You're supposed to just pretend that you're just a good person here looking for love, and that's it.
So for to see him be so open, I was like, what did his producer tell him? He completely went off. I don't know.
Yeah.
The last one we see is Connor B, Catman, who talks about how he had struggled with alcohol abuse after he dropped out of grad school. Wasn't really proud of some of the things he did. And then we get a surprise in that Katie says, you know, like, you guys have been so open and I want to be really open too. And she talks about how she was sexually assaulted about a decade ago. And she hadn't told her mom. This was the first time she'd really opened up about it with anyone. But because the men were so open, she felt like she wanted to be open with them. Very emotional, very raw. Men were crying. Nick Viall looked like, I didn't know this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was nice, I don't like to give the Bachelor franchise too much credit, but they did afterwards. They did not put a content warning at the beginning, which I think would have been the right way to handle it, but they did afterwards give a hotline number for Rain and, you know, gave some resources.
Which I feel like on Colton's season, when Kaylin had this similar situation on her one-on-one, I think they did put a warning before the episode aired and then also put the hotline thing after she shared her story. So it was weird that they did not feel the need to do that on this episode.
Yeah, I think so too. So it kind of felt like a step backwards.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good to see. Then we go to the dinner portion of our group date. There's not a whole lot, except all the men are suspicious of Thomas now because he said, I'm not here for the right reasons. And then, of course, he interrupts Aaron's time with Katie. And Aaron's like not having it.
Yeah.
At all.
If there's anything about Aaron that we've learned from this episode, it's that he's not afraid to be about it. He will stick up. He will say whatever. He's like, this is my opinion.
Okay, so the first episode, Aaron randomly got into that fight with Cody, and we were all like, what's happening? And it was like very briefly shown, and we were like, what's happening? What did we miss? Second episode, he fights Cody in the mud wrestling thing and then says, I don't like this guy. You need to send him home. In the third episode, he says, Thomas, don't you dare tell me that my time is less important than yours.
You're next on my list.
Okay, Aaron.
He did that with Carl, too. He was one of the main people that was like for pushing to get Carl out.
Yes, so he's not afraid to tell you if he doesn't like you, I guess.
Yeah.
Good for him. The men are worried that she might give the group date rose to Thomas, but she gives it to Connor B because he was very open. And that is the group date.
So how do you feel about these dates like this? Because I know we've talked about the Bachelor being kind of bad at pushing these traumatic narratives for storyline. And then even now with this like circle group therapy thing of them having to share that in front of everyone else. What did you think?
I don't love it. I will say, like, knowing someone's trauma, if they're ready to share it with you, is definitely part of a relationship.
Right.
But especially on the way to an engagement. But it feels like they reward people for like sharing the worst bits of their lives and reliving them. Even Katie, that was obviously her choice to do so. And I think it was very powerful that she shared that. And she talked a lot about consent in it. But I still felt bad for her that she felt like she needed to open up and share this with these men that she doesn't know that well, knowing that it was going to air on TV. I don't love that the Bachelor franchise almost seems to like reward trauma. Like contestants go onto the show knowing if they talk about trauma, they're going to get screen time.
Right. And I think, yeah, that's how it's kind of usually played. And that's how I felt towards the beginning of this date. Towards the end of it, I was like, wow, good on you guys for being vulnerable and sharing that. I did feel like it was weird to do it in the group because I'm like, if you're ready to share that with Katie specifically, I get it. But on the other hand, I thought, do you think that they manufactured this date so that she could share that it was Katie's choice that she could share this part about her with them all at once versus having to share it like with each individual person? Because if not, then I do find it weird that they did something like this. It's kind of similar to the Glacier season where they, I don't know if they were painting stuff, but I felt like it was the same thing where they all got up and shared something like super sad.
Yes.
But this felt heavier because they were sitting down and like the backdrop of it all. It was just like,
it was dark. There were spotlights. They're all in a circle looking at each other. And yeah, I felt like
it was created to bring that type of like serious tension there.
Right. I even felt myself wondering, because this was a group date, like, so, you know, typically we see contestants after the group date, they go home and they talk about the date. So like when they got back to the house, did they just like, oh yeah, Katie told us about X, Y, and Z of her life experience. Like that feels so inappropriate too. And so I don't know.
Yeah. It was an odd choice for me, but hopefully, I mean, obviously she felt confident in her decision. Otherwise, I don't think she would have shared that. If she didn't share it with her mom before then, I don't think she would have been able to have been pushed to share that if she didn't feel, that she wanted to.
So yeah, still don't love the trauma bonding that they like encourage so heavily.
Mm-hmm.
People can find love without trauma, and we should encourage that.
Agreed.
So then we have the one-on-one, which is with Michael A., the other single dad. We love him.
Mm-hmm.
He is so pure. They go out, they're dune buggying. They have a little picnic snack area. They talk, and then they get into the dinner portion, which is where I feel like he really opened up and trauma bonding again. But he talks about losing his wife to cancer and how much he loved her and thought that this woman was, you know, the love of his life, the person he'd be with forever. And I thought it was really beautiful because he said, I feel like I have a chance to find love again and that we can build a love that powerful. And like Katie was tearing up. I was tearing up.
I loved it. I'm trying to find the tweet of his specific words because I was like welling up. What a gift to fall in love twice is what he said. Protect him at all costs.
I was like, oh, what's just like a good man.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was beautiful is Katie gives him the rose at the end of the date. And she says, I understand that I'm not just giving this rose to you. I'm also giving it to your son as well. And like, you could tell how touched he was that she acknowledged that, because obviously his son's a huge part of his life. And it was just like it was really beautiful. And then they go out and they look at the stars.
It was such a cute date. I was like, wow, you guys have no budget this season, but this was beautiful. We don't have to talk about that because I'm a little angry. You can really feel it on this episode of how low budget things are. But
yeah, I was like, can we not get some fireworks?
Yeah,
but it's fine. And then the end of the episode is the men all coming together to talk about Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that they're having an intervention. Someone asks him if he ever thought about being the Bachelor, and he's like, well, yeah, I did. I have to be honest with you. I was like, good for him for being honest, but you can tell that there's going to be like a huge pile on him again.
Not good for him.
Not good for him. He's going to, I think they're going to get him kicked off, but it seems like Katie's very into him. So that's going to be the drama next week. And we see our first sneaky peeky, well, not our first, but our second sneaky peeky of Mr. Blake coming back. So we probably won't see him until episode 5, not next week, but the week after that.
Which is what I said. Is it not?
It is. It's exactly
Look at the tapes. Look at the tape or listen. Of me saying that he wasn't in the preview for last week's episode. So there's no way he's in this week's. And that they're going to show him next week, but it's probably him talking to Tayshia and like trying to get on the show, quote unquote. Not like he had to quarantine for 4 to 5 days before he even shows up on this camera. And then see Katie. So I highly doubt it will be shown at any point during next week's episode. Otherwise, they would have shown that in the preview too. But
yeah,
Thomas,
it's gonna be the preview. Next week is all Thomas.
Yeah, I think the 3 things that you can't say on this show is say that you were dating someone right before the show. He said that,
which he did say.
Say that you want to become the Bachelor.
Strike 2.
Say that you're here for the wrong reasons and that you're just here to build a platform and don't really care about the lead.
Strike 3. You're out.
And I'm like, incredible that not only that you say one of these, but all three of them in quick succession with
I'm
no
like,
prompting.
Right. I'm like, do you not want to be here?
Tell me you've never watched this show without telling me you've never watched this show.
Truly.
Yeah. No one coached him. No one gave him any tips going in. Obviously, honesty is the best policy, Thomas. And obviously, anyone who comes into the show would be an idiot not to think about, if you make it far enough, sure, you could be the lead. But like, there's no like good of sharing that out loud in any of the counts. And same with the dating thing. Like, obviously, you don't know if it's gonna work out with the lead, or what your situation is gonna be like. So yeah, people date up into the show. That's fine to me,
right?
As long as you're not in a serious relationship and you like
exactly
end that before going on. But if you've been dating someone like less than 3 months, I would say,
fine,
have fun.
But yeah, I just was like, do you not want to be? I just wonder what his producer told him to get him to say this, because
I don't think they told him anything. I think he was just word vomiting from nerves.
Wow. I mean, I guess you're right. Maybe he's never watched the show, and so he was just like, I'm just gonna say my truth.
Because there are people out there who can share that they haven't really been affected by things that are traumatic in their life, and that's fine. Good for them. That's a blessing. And so I think he got scared that he didn't have anything dark and personal, and that was the only dark and personal thing that, or at least that he felt truly comfortable sharing, or that was not like an invasion of privacy of someone else. And that's what he decided to go with. It was just unfortunately the wrong choice, which is a shame, because honestly, he has the look of a bachelor.
Yeah, he's very
been in top contention.
Yes, and when we talked about the men, like when we previewed the men, I know we were both like, "Ooh, Thomas, that could be someone that's the Bachelor." So I'm like, well, he just ruined it for himself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
There it goes.
Well, I'm excited for next week. And then, do you have a Rose of the Week? Someone that you think in the culture went above and beyond, you want to recognize really quick. Before we do that, let's talk about thoughts on the episode. So we had a couple guys that went home. Mm-hmm. We only saw 2 dates. We only saw one group date and one one-on-one date in this episode, which is not a lot of content. But we saw 4 men go home: Carl, Kyle, Garrett, and John. Do you have any thoughts you want to share on the men that went home?
First of all, like, who are these? Who's Kyle? I mean, like, I know who Kyle is because we unfortunately studied this cast list, but like, they gave him no screen time, and I feel very bad for him.
And I feel like we didn't see a ton of Garrett either.
Oh, that's very true. You're right.
I'm like, I knew there was a Garrett just because of the history of Garretts in this franchise. And I was like, ooh, another Garrett. But
yeah,
if his name were not Garrett, I would be like, who is this man?
Correct. And again, that would be the pet peeve of me taking my time to go on this, fire dumpster, whatever, of a show. Dumpster fire, not fire dumpster. And to not at least even get a little bit of screen time, like, then it's truly for nothing. So sorry, man.
I feel bad for him. We talked about Carl. We talked about John.
Mm-hmm.
What have your thoughts changed at all about who you think might be the final rose at the end of all of this, or like your final 4? Has that changed at all?
No, I think that I feel strong with my Andrew S. Even like him this week, of them showing like that he wanted the date, but by them showing that, I knew he wasn't going to get it, so I was a little upset about it. But I have hope for him. I'm really hoping coming up soon that he will get that time.
I would love to see a one-on-one date with him. I think it would be darling.
Yeah, I think that Michael A will make it far, but I do not think he's in top 4, because not necessarily that she couldn't make it work with him, because they have great chemistry. The little bonus scene at the end of the episode, I don't know if you saw, they were like laughing and making jokes at the stars, and she was like, oh, look at that star, it's the pain in my ass or whatever, and it's called Michael.
I know. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. The banter.
Bants. I loved it. However, I think she understands that it would take a lot of time to develop a relationship with his child as well. And unfortunately, this like format just does not breed for that. Yes, I just bumped my mic. Apologies. And so usually when you know, like with someone who has children, you try to cut it off before that time period. So I feel strongly about the rest of my top 4 just because from what I've seen of promos, and especially Blake, I'm very intrigued to see what happens because I just have a good hunch.
I feel like we've both said we think he's going to be in the final 4. Let me tell you what would shock me if Blake were like a Heather Martin. If Blake came in and then he went out.
I thought
we would record the podcast, the episode after that, and I would just be like sitting here and be like, I don't know what happened.
But, well, folks, never listen to us ever again. Also, I'm trying to think of you said that about the Heather. Oh, Aaron, because originally he was in my final 4. If he was not someone who was so combative, I would have been like, oh, maybe I actually need to switch this again and say he'd be in the final 4 because of how much she trusts him and like he feels very protective of her. But I think whenever you're someone who's like in the throes of these whatever conversations and always trying to like basically doing a little Survivor every week and pushing people out, it's not gonna work. It's never gonna be that person, unfortunately, in the top group. So
I could see him being the Katie of her season. You know how like Katie on Matt's season, he very much trusted her and like went to her for input, and then at the end it was like, I just see you as a friend.
Deuces.
I could see that. I could see Aaron taking that role.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Aaron's cute. Aaron's a cutie.
Yeah. Love a confident vocal person. Knows what they want.
We did not talk about this beforehand, but did you see they released the cast for Love Island UK yesterday?
Did I? Oh my guys. Guys, I'll be honest that this franchise is just a filler for my love of Love Island, because when you watch what these people over the pond are doing on reality TV, you will never be able to look at our stuff the same way again.
Tommy told me I had to watch Love Island UK.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll get to it. And I think I took like a year to finally do it. She was like really annoyed with me. But I finally watched it, and I started with season 1.
Oh, God.
Is not the one to start with.
Do not.
She told me not to, and I did it anyways. I think I didn't ask. I was just like, I'll just start with season 1. Then she was like, why did you do that? But I was shocked. There was a culture shock for me because I was like, they show this on TV?
Yeah. If someone were to ask me which seasons to start with for Love Island, I would say UK, and I think they're on Hulu. They should be still. I would start with season 5 and then watch season 2. And then maybe season 4. And then after that, you can kind of have some free reign.
But don't watch 1.
Not that you don't watch 1, but it would be like watching like the first season of The Bachelor and then watching a season now. It is completely unrefined. They have no idea what they're doing yet. They allow them to have a lot more alcohol than they do in the later seasons, as you can see. Even like, I think it's after season 3, because they only have 6 out for the newer UK version, where they don't allow smoking anymore on TV, because so many people started watching Love Island that they're like, this is a bad influence on children. And it used to always show them like having smoke breaks and talking crap about people in the house. So it's not like that. But yeah, it's like a mix of Big Brother and Bachelor in Paradise, if you are not familiar. Absolutely love it. They have a lot of international versions. Can't recommend it enough if you love reality TV mess.
Yeah. And they're starting, I think, next week?
Next week. Yeah. I watched a little promo video showing all the cast. They said it was one of their diverse casts yet. I have to laugh.
Because there's like 2 black people, right?
2 visibly black people out of 10. And perhaps a couple light-skinned brown people. I could not really tell because
I can never tell with the Brits.
Yeah, it's perhaps the lighting. You guys have been like under a gray sky for like a year now and not been able to travel, so who could know? They film in like off the coast of Spain, I think. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see who the new people they pull in, like cast of the rotation, because it's kind of like musical chairs where once someone gets kicked off, someone new will come in, just like Bachelor in Paradise. So the first initial cast, there's a little some left needed to the imagination, but I think that since they've had this year off, they're probably ready to come back with some craziness. So I'm ready.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I think I'm actually going to watch. You know, I'm going to try and watch.
And I'm sure your next question, listeners, is like, how are you watching this if it's based in the UK? What a great question. You can DM me and I will share my means, but I will not leave, I guess, more evidence of how I am able to access the show on this podcast. But it's not that difficult.
But she's available to provide that resource for you.
Yes, I will. And if not, then it's like 2 weeks. I think they air it 2 weeks afterwards on Hulu. So you'll just be like a little bit behind, but just don't check Twitter trending tags, whatever, if you don't want to be spoiled. And then go from there. But yeah.
Perfect. Okay, should we get into Rose of the Week?
Let's do it. My Rose of the Week. Sha'Carri Richardson. Never in my life have I stand a woman like this. The hair, the nails, the lashes, which honestly I was like, I hope your lash tech is using this video of you sprinting for these Olympic trials for her promos, because the way that those little wispies, those little mink lashes, it's a lot stronger than some AliExpress-ish, okay? This was the real deal. Good for you. Everything iconic. Like, I've been watching her have her viral videos since her time at LSU, SEC represent, and I'm very excited to see her kill it during the Olympics, because I think you shared this meme and I saw it on my TikTok For You page too, where it's like every other part of the year you're like, you know, screw America, let's work on, you know, like dismantling everything. And then the Olympics come around and you become like the most patriotic person that you've ever met. And unfortunately, it's very true for myself too. I get like super proud and I don my Old Navy patriotic gear from like 2004 and do what I need to do to support these people, even like, you know, all of them. Shot put.
Yeah. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, discus, baby, let's go.
Oh my gosh. Shuffle. You haven't never seen us shuffle like this.
No.
Please.
Table tennis. I'm like, all right, that form. Let's go.
I said shuffle. It's definitely curling. You know what I meant.
I know. I mean, I watch all of it. If it's out there, I'm watching it.
Precisely. That's all that matters. So yeah, that's me.
Okay. I am going to give my Rose of the Week to Mr. T-Pain.
Teddy Pender.
Mm-hmm. He is in a new Netflix documentary that's coming out soon.
Ooh.
A little clip of it came out on the good old Twitter yesterday. And he talked about how he had depression for 4 years after people in the music industry came to him and told him he had ruined the industry by introducing autotune. And he told a story of how he was on a flight and a flight attendant woke him up and said, a man named Usher wants to talk to you. Made the flight attendant bring T-Pain up to Usher. And Usher said, you know, I just want to talk to you for a second. And T-Pain was like, I was so excited to talk to Usher. This is my boy. And Usher said, I really think you like fucked up music.
What?
You woke him up from when he was sleeping to tell him that?
Usher Raymond, I just want to talk.
And the audacity, because now Usher uses autotune.
Right.
Sir. But he said Jay-Z had said something like this to him. He said Usher had. He like listed artists and he was like, I didn't realize it until later, but he was like, I was depressed because so many people said that like I had ruined music and it's something I really love. And I was like,
this is a very, very good conversation, because, which perhaps we will have to save it for another time. But at the time, yeah, I definitely remember people saying that like autotune was going to be like the death of everything. And of course, he was the one that like used it a lot in his music. I loved any type of T-Pain feature. Like, I was excited anytime I saw featuring T-Pain. I said, oh, it's about to slap. Like,
yes.
But I can understand the like old heads of saying, how dare you, like we had to work for this and like train and vocalize and whatever things. It's the same way that people, I think, approach mumble rappers now and like Cardi B or Megan whenever it's like talking about their work. But I feel like in 5 years, 10 years, we'll be having the same conversation of how influential they are and what they've been able to inspire other people. And we're already seeing it, like how many female rappers there are out there. Like once Cardi came on the scene, and it was like Nicki was just kind of not the end of her career. Barbs do not come for me. But like as she was starting to slow down of putting out constant things, it was like, oh, there can be 2 female rappers? That's allowed? And it was like, okay, cool. We'll have Cardi. We'll have Flo Milli. We'll have Saweetie. Like just showing that it's a possibility for people. Open it up. Same with T-Pain and the auto-tune. It was like, oh, dang, I don't have to be the best singer. Is it a little annoying? Yeah, sometimes. But sometimes I just want to have a bop. And if there's a bop, then use some autotune. It's gonna be okay.
I really did not realize how influential T-Pain was until he did his verses, and I was like, he produced so much music in that era that we love,
hits on hits.
Mm-hmm. So I'm like, the fact that Usher woke him up out of a dead sleep on a plane bothers me. Usher, square up.
Yeah, you're on my list, Usher.
Yeah, like we've canceled you.
Which is rude because I've been defending him for a very long time as like the current king of R&B or prince of R&B because people keep trying to give it to other people, and I'm like, until you can surpass what Usher did in the mid 2000s, then there's not a new person yet. So
I can't think of anyone that is on that level.
Right.
Not to defend him, not to be an Usher apologist because we're family T-Pain here, but
right.
But like he did something in the early 2000s that I don't think anyone else can touch right now. Well,
that's it for me.
I think that's it for me too. Thank you so much for joining us for another week of Content Culture. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review.
Love it. And you can watch any of our video recaps too to see these wonderful facial expressions that we're giving you on our YouTube on Fridays. Also, you can email us if you ever like have longer comments because I feel like DMs can sometimes get lost. So if you've sent a message and we missed it, apologies, but definitely send it. Love to listen. Any feedback, any type of questions you'd have about the pod, come on down. We'll add all that kind of information in the description below.
Absolutely. And we will see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.